This is way better than we thought, as following what has been a very exciting spring training filled with both moves and some players shining above the rest. A new report has just dropped revealing some big information surrounding a couple of Jays prospects that are not only better than fans realize, but have big implications going forward as the Jays finalize the roster in the coming weeks. But not only that, we have another Trey Savage update following his timeline being revealed surrounding him ramping up and his readiness for the regular season. Ben Smith has dropped a new report revealing some new details that have emerged surrounding how he is going to be preparing for opening day and how many innings he's actually going to be able to be throwing in these games. We also have Max Scherzer. Not only is the signing made official, but he is ramping up faster than fans expected. And this is all very encouraging as we approach opening day just a bit under a month away. You're going to want to stay tuned to the very end of the video, folks. We're just weeks away from opening day, but before we get into it all, if you're part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Jays content. Ladies and gentlemen, let's dive right into the news today. And a lot of updates. New prospect rankings have dropped. We also have a Trey Savage update. And let's start with the Trey Savage update, but stay tuned for the prospect rankings have dropped from MLB.com. But Ben Smith tweeted yesterday that Trey Savage will throw a live BP to hitters next. Still no clear timeline for getting into a spring game. After the live BP, Jays will determine the next steps. Trey Savage says he's good with the slow buildup and he's healthy. And you'll see the key word there. He's 100% healthy. And this is all, of course, emerged following the report from Ben Smith just a couple days ago about how the Jays are planning now to ramp him up to be ready to do 3 or 4 inning spurts to start the season in order to not, of course, overextend his arm and really push him after what was a crazy year last year from going from rookie ball to the World Series and pitching the same amount. They are going to be limiting his innings. And for, the Jays, it's good that Trey is all the way in with it. But most importantly, you can see it from Thomas Hall. He is healthy. And that's what really matters the most, right? Because the Jays have an immense amount of starting pitching depth, especially with this Max Scherzer update I'm going to dive into in a minute here. They have tons. And for Trey Savage to be able to be, to have the luxury of being able to be a slow kind of starter here and slowly integrate himself into the rotation is a blessing because of how Ross Atkins and the Jays have developed a starting pitching staff. But this is a very encouraging sign. He still is not going to get into spring games yet. Who knows if he even gets into a spring game, at all. I'm sure he will at some point. But what matters most is that he's healthy and they are ramping him up. And all these things are exciting because, folks, and we'll say the Max Scherzer update at the end of the video here, but number one prospect is Trey Savage. And I want to dive into a couple of things now. And it has been a pretty exciting spring training thus far, right? You're having guys like RJ Schreck, do really good. Josh Kasevich, all these guys have been playing really well. But MLB.com dropped their prospect rankings, right? And of course, the Jays have a couple guys in the top 100. But I want to go over and take this time now to discuss how they're looking heading into the upcoming season, but B, what this means going forward for the roster decisions. Now, I'll have another video prior to opening day breaking all that down, but let's look at the prospects. You have Trey Savage 1. He's going to graduate this year. But you have recently drafted JoJo Parker 2. You have Arjun Amala, Johnny King. RJ Schreck has suddenly snuck up into the 9th pick, and I'm going to dive into him specifically in a moment here. But the Jays all of a sudden now, folks, have a really good deep farm system. And that's something that I haven't been able to say for a very long time, really since, Bo and Vladdy and Kevin Biggio and all those guys were prospects way back in, 2018, 2019. They're at a point now, the Jays, where they have an abundance of top prospects. And of course, Ricky Tiedemann, we're going to see what happens with him. He's been dealing with a little bit of elbow soreness. Gage Stanifer, a guy who has a very good chance to make an impact this year. Juan Sanchez, probably the highest ceiling guy on this list, outside of course Trey Savage because he's already played. They're looking really good, and you start to look at the Jays roster and where they could use some roster spot battles. Of course, you're not going to get young guys like Arjun Amala, he's not ready, Juan Sanchez, but you start to look at it, and RJ Schreck is suddenly popping in. Now, Keegan Matheson, he does the prospect rankings, I believe, and he's heavily involved. And he did an AMA and asked me anything about prospects. And he was asked, how far are Kasevich and Schreck away from the bigs and your thoughts on them? Side question, he talked about some bourbon because Keegan Matheson loves his scotch and bourbon. But Keegan goes on to say both can do it in 2026, referring to both being able to make the big league team. Schreck ranks higher, but Kasevich might end up even closer because of the thin infield depth if Leo Jimenez doesn't stick. Jays love Josh Kasevich, which is notable. Now you look at Kasevich here. Guess what? He's not obviously here because he didn't break the top 12. He is in the top 20 or top 30. But RJ Schreck is at 9 right now, and his ETA is this upcoming season. Same with Yohendrick Panago. Same with Ricky Tiedemann. But RJ Schreck has he's an outfielder, but he has a very good opportunity to make this team. But if Leo Jimenez suddenly struggles like he did last year, keep an eye out for Josh Kasevich. Josh Kasevich is a guy who I think was like one of the top 10 prospects in the Jays system, if I'm not mistaken, way back in 2024, I think it was. And at the end of the day, you're in a very good spot. And that's what's better about this team right now. You have guys who can come up. We saw last year it works. You have a deep farm system for trades. The Jays are just in a fantastic spot. So keep an eye out for Josh Kasevich. Keep an eye out for, of course, a couple other guys, including RJ Schreck. And all of a sudden now, the Jays prospect pool is better than people expected. And of course, with this ranking coming out, they're ranking higher and higher each year in the MLB. And that's even after trading last year, Dwarren Watts-Brown, trading Cal Stevens, some of their top prospects to actually get major league pitching and things like that. I'm all in on this farm system. I love it. Juan Sanchez, I had multiple videos on, going to be insane. Gage Stanifer, we're probably going to see maybe at some point this year. Like Keegan Matheson was hinting at him making an impact similar to what Trey Savage did last year in the regular season. You're never going to, expect a guy like that to go on an insane, like Gage Stanifer to go on an insane postseason run. There's just a lot of upside here. Keep an eye out for JoJo Parker as well. But yeah, speaking of, though, things that have gone well, folks, it is official. Mr. Max Scherzer. That's Dylan Cease. I'll find you the Max Scherzer screenshot here. Sorry about that. Mr. Max Scherzer here. It was at the Blue Jays camp, threw a side in full uniform yesterday, and will throw again tomorrow. So on Wednesday, could make his Grapefruit League debut as soon as Saturday. Now, initial reports were that he wasn't going to be ready until, what was it, late April or something like that, maybe May. I mean, again, we haven't gotten an update yet. We're going to hear from him, I think, today. So I'll have a video if anything notable comes out of that. But the signing was made official, I believe, at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Eastern yesterday night. It's he's ramping up quickly, folks, very, very quickly. And all of a sudden now, the Jays have not only made the deal official, but he could be ramping up quicker than expected, maybe due to their, rejuvenized plan with Trey Savage and his new spring schedule into the, the actual MLB schedule. They may have told him, hey, Max, we can actually use you earlier than expected. You have Cease, you have Gosman, you have Ponce, and that Barrios, Lauer. You throw Scherzer in there, you're good, right? You can let Shane Bieber take his time. You can let, of course, Trey Savage take his time. And I'm looking forward to it because you look at the schedule ahead here, we might see Max Scherzer at some point soon. But on Tuesday, obviously, these are probable pitchers. You have, and this is obviously the World Baseball Classics undergoing now or happening now as well. So we'll keep you up to date on that. Eloy Jimenez is the guy to watch there. But you're going to have Gosman, Cease, Barrios, Scherzer on Saturday, according to Arden Zwelling. I'm looking forward to it because their pitching depth is just so good that they can afford to, maybe push Max Scherzer a little more. He's probably going to be starting, if you read between the lines here, sooner than late April. And speaking of starting, Cody Ponce yesterday also made his second start, I believe, of spring. Looked pretty good. Now, he got hit pretty hard overall, but his stuff is looking good. Feel free to pause if you're into the advanced metric.
The crack of a bat can sometimes echo louder than an announcement from the front office. And right now that echo is rumbling through the spring training camp of the Toronto Blue Jays. What began as a routine preseason suddenly feels like a gripping baseball drama, because one unexpected player has stepped into the spotlight and quietly forced the club into a decision that may shape their opening day roster. Here on the Bluejays Report, we follow the moments when baseball turns from sport into theater, and this story might be one of the most intriguing of the entire spring. The man at the center of the storm is Eloy Jimenez, a player who arrived on a modest minor league deal but has been swinging his bat like a man determined to rewrite his story. Every ball he strikes seems to leap from the bat with authority, screaming across the field as if it has somewhere urgent to be. The analytics are glowing, the contact is thunderous, and suddenly the Blue Jays are faced with a delicious but complicated dilemma. Do you ignore a bat that hot, even if the roster puzzle becomes messy? What makes this situation even more fascinating is Jimenez himself. Once a rising star and Rookie of the Year finalist, he nearly stepped away from the game altogether before reinventing himself physically and mentally. Now he arrives leaner, sharper, and swinging with the hunger of a man who knows opportunity rarely knocks twice. Reports suggest he is even willing to begin the season in AAA if necessary, waiting patiently for the door to open. If you're enjoying this breakdown on the Blue Jays Report, take a quick moment to like the video, share it with fellow baseball fans, and subscribe so you never miss the latest updates as the season approaches. Yet the consequences of Jimenez's surge ripple far beyond his own locker. Players such as Davis Schneider and other depth pieces could suddenly find themselves at the center of difficult roster conversations. Baseball, after all, can be wonderfully cruel. One man's resurgence often becomes another's uncertainty. And that is the beauty of spring training. It is a stage where forgotten talents roar back to life and quiet storylines explode into headline drama. Whether Jimenez ultimately claims a place on the roster or begins the year waiting in the wings, one thing is certain: the Blue Jays now have a problem every contender secretly hopes for: too much talent knocking at the door. Stay tuned to the Blue Jays Report, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because the next twist in this story could arrive with the very next swing. Baseball.